Esports.
Which is crazy, right? Because with Jamba, it's something we've been mentioning. I feel like they're just being too passive. And the moment where they actually had a chance to be aggressive, they decided to back away.
All right, well, we're going to back away here from the stage. We're going to throw it on over to our commentators to kick off our first Miramar of the day.
Mirror, more of that, please. Let's go into the first of the day in the desert, over from the east coast down to the southwest in Minas del Sur. Let's chop the southeast quadrant.
I didn't like that. I did not like that one bit, I'll tell you that right now. But nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What did you like?
I think I've blocked it. I blocked it from my memory. It's fine.
What are you talking about?
Los Leones, though, down towards Minas del Sur and Los Higos. Most teams should be able to get up towards that northern side, honestly, just because they drop out straight away. It does mean we might have a cluster of teams up towards that north, in which case you're probably going to see a couple of these squads dropping a little bit later and going far north from that position. Bots Gaming down towards Puerto Paraíso. Well, Impala for them. D plus Kia down towards Puerto Paraíso themselves. And this is the first time we've seen Miramar in the main tournament, so it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these teams play. They've done the tried and tested over in Orangle. Now they've got to play on a bit of a bigger playing field. Now, for a lot of these teams, this is going to be quite different, especially those who qualified from All-Stars. We're back to 16 teams. This is going to be far more easier to hit these rotates. There are going to be less players crowding up the match and the map itself. But Circle heads over towards that western side now, John. Power Grid, Monte Nuevo, San Martin. A lot of high ground to be played around with here.
I'm looking for the rest of Alpha 7 because I've spotted two of them on the northeast side. Revo and Senatexa both breaking up towards Tierra Bronx. Oh, it looks like they're all in that vehicle on the, on the south vehicle. Okay. I was wondering, is there really two of them there? Are they playing super split drop? But no, they're going to be playing up towards Campo Militar and Tierra Bronca. Picardo, looks like that's going to be GK's for the time being. Reject Tokyo playing Los Leones on a bigger split. And that south side, Gladiators. Split position there. Miramar, very much more common to see these split drops on non-large POIs. You can get quite a lot of loot on board that way. Twisted Minds, smokes being dropped and close to Infinity IQ, but nobody going down just yet. In fact, not even any damage found. Maybe that's about to change as Dami plinks away, but safety found for the time being.
Yeah, actually the only player that's taken even a lick of damage is Alter Ego. Over on that side, up towards El Azahar, probably dropped out just a little bit too quickly. Hit the ground with a bit of a crunch. You rub those ankles and get on with it, though. You've got to get moving on this map because it is a big one, making sure you can get over towards the side of the map that you need to be in, especially with a playing path that heads down towards all the way on the east, and we get a shift on the circle over towards that west. I think a lot of teams will have to consider the fact that there is going to be a big roadblock of these teams. Getting over towards Monte Nuevo, El Pozo early on will be a big boon. So hitting into those vehicles early on, moving towards those positions and getting some massive wealth of loot on your back is going to be very important.
Alpha 7, as we talked about before, on that northeast side, so paths available to them to get in, to maybe circumnavigate all of those traffic jams, that roadblock that will come into effect for a lot of these other teams. 628, the westmost front of the line of players that spans the middle of the map. We'll look to push probably further west. Aren't seeing too many early rotations out to that western side just yet. No one's swinging for El Pozo.
Yeah, I think most teams are going to try and bleed a lot of this land dry of loot, right? And I think for 628 in particular, this is going to be a case of taking North Picardo drop, transitioning to Power Grid, and then maybe heading to Monte Nuevo or one of these high ground positions up towards Crater Fields. That would make the most sense to me. Most teams just trying to get as looted as possible, understanding that, you know, towards that western side there's going to be more loot available to them. So it's a smart play, and I think a lot of these teams that headed west nice and early will have the lion's share of the loot going on in this game. Teams like Box will have to just do with Impala, albeit that is a big place. With our esports setting in play, you will be able to get as much loot as you need. I think the difference for Box Gaming is that they'll have to get moving a lot earlier than some of these teams. They don't want to get caught up in that crunch. You know, even a heavy north rotation could work out for Puerto Paraíso and then Impala. D plus Kia, though, are going to head on that south side. Maybe try and move up past La Driera, where we see Team Falcons play on that south edge and by them up. very much a reasonable play, in my opinion. We do get that heavy shift on stage 2, so a lot of teams will most likely be waiting for that.
Not too sure what he thought he saw on the top of that building, but whatever it was, it's not there anymore. DBS shots making sure of that, but no points found for it. Nobody going down just yet, and of course, a return to a little bit of normalcy with the 16-team lobbies. Not only is the first time we're seeing Miramar in these in the main tournament, it is this first 16-team lobby from this whole tournament as well. We haven't seen any of it over the past 3 days. It's good to see a lot more spacious positions in these first drops, a lot more what we're used to seeing, a lot more what teams are used to playing as well. It looks like we have our first breaks to the west. It's Twisted Minds moving towards Montenuevo, and 628 just started to eke west of Power Grid.
Yeah, sort of interesting we are seeing Stalwart not really pumping the damage meters and those points meters as much as we sort of expected. I think there was about 4 of us over here that predicted Stalwart to win this tournament, in fact.
It's true.
At the end of the day, it's just not coming to fruition.
I think it was only Barney who predicted Vampire.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy.
He knows what he's talking about.
And you guys at home would be smart as well to pick yourself up some PMWI special awards. You could pick that up in the 2023 PMWI crate, and that's only available through July 15th to August 15th. You do see some of the players in-game actually sporting some of that equipment. You should be able to get an eye on what you could potentially snag, because it does look very cool. I'll tell you that. For nothing.
For nothing. Wow. That's pretty good value. I get free information. I don't even have to give a cent. Amazing. Perfect. Big fan of that one.
Yeah, man, I'm just giving out free advice. Left, right, and center. That's what I'm all about at the end of the day.
If you had some advice for Gladiators right now, I'm thinking this is the team that we've watched for in the region that we've covered for so long now. And they just aren't performing quite at the level that we've expected from them. We did see a little bit from them in that last game, but if you had any advice for them, what are you thinking is the best sort of thing that they could look to address?
Honestly, advice-wise, in terms of like rotations, there's really not much to work on. I think they still make these smart rotations. They get caught up in that end game though. It's that last 10 minutes, and I still think it's confidence, which is the issue right now for Gladiators. And some of that mechanical skill is just lacking sometimes, because I have seen this squad perform marvelously well in terms of those gunfights. Unfortunately, it's just not working out at the moment. But you do say, we see those glimpses now and again, but just not as frequently as I'd like to see them at the moment. It feels like some of the synergy is a little bit lacking here and there. And Matic isn't as effective on this Alfango a lot of times, and he's just becoming a little bit of a burden.
Needs to be pulled along a little bit.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, they're still making the moves that they would generally make. It's just because it's not being as successful that we see it as maybe a mistake or a problem. And I think realistically for Gladiators, it's just tightening some of those screws on their side. Because a lot of times you see their rotation, you're like, you know what, that is a decent rotate. Now you just need to follow through, and maybe you get further onto the end game. Because honestly, that last match, they made a bunch of smart decisions. A great third party over towards Alpha 7. And that end game, again, just a little bit lost between figuring out whether they should be fighting GK, holding them off, or should we be fully focusing down on towards Box. And I think it's because they've got so many ideas in their head, because they're very aware of what's going in the lobby, that it leads to a little bit of indecision. So I want to see, you know, Gladiators just look a little bit more decisive, a bit more confident, and that would change a lot of things. Because honestly, at this point in time, I don't think even I'm qualified to give them much advice.
I really like that breakdown. I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's much more I can add to that. Hopefully we'll see those problems being addressed by the Gladiators in the future, because I think we had... Did we have a Gladiators prediction to win in the talent rotation? I'm not sure we did.
I don't think so.
It was certainly on my mind as to whether or not to predict them. But no, it was Alpha 7, I remember, because I was like, oh, regional champions, things like that.
You know, it's easy to predict Gladiators getting into a main stage international tournament.
Yeah.
Qualification, 100%. Doing well in the actual tournament, that's a different story. They have a lot of times run into some unlucky moments. Vampire, on the other hand, They've got their lucky break here in PMWI. PMGC, not so much. PMWI, on the other hand, that's where it's at.
Why would you talk about Vampire like that? And immediately they lose a player. You did that. That was
look,
you.
man, it's fine. I think Vampire has their ups and downs. They still get relatively far in a lot of these games.
True.
Every single team is going to lose a player here and there at the start of the game. Vampire is not impervious to that, unfortunately, for themselves. But 51 points, they've still got a nice little buffer, a nice little lead between them and third place. Alter Ego with 45, trailing behind them by not a lot whatsoever. I think you have to congratulate Alter Ego as well. Really, really good stuff. Some great pickups for that team too. Rosemary, an absolute boon to them so far.
Certainly displaying plenty of skill so far, nice and fresh for the roster. And they are certainly ultra eager to perform.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. I think that they've been traveling a lot recently too, so it is nice to see them all come back together and still do very well on a stage like this. Reject and Geek, though, currently at loggerheads, both sides. You've got Geek on the high ground and Reject desperately trying to get through this pass, which is difficult. Circle heads out off towards that western side. You can see that on the top right hand of your screen. With 628 currently holding some extremely strong spots. Great scouting position from Xing. And Yang Won and the rest of the squad, they're all in a very, very prominent compound that sits right on the edge of the fielded area. So they'll have great sight lines up towards Alpha 7 and D plus Kia, who has made one hell of a wide rotate. That's a thick boy up towards El Pozzo.
DRS are also playing on the shadow of the mountain currently held by Xing, and might slow Alpha 7's push down, because that's probably one of the few routes they're thinking about to try and get through from this next circle. Reject Tokyo currently trying to find their home quite near the Gladiators on the south side, but turned away at the door, and they'll have to redirect their rotational thoughts across the way. A lot of field on that western side that is difficult to navigate, and the gaps between these positions getting a little bit too long for the liking.
Yeah, there's a lot of space in the circle, which is really unplayable, honestly, until you hit that end game. For instance, that northwest field, horrible position to be in until you maybe the last 4 squads, you can send it to one of those little hay bale shacks. Down towards that south side on the north edge of Monte Nuevo, pretty barren ground as well. The moment Box and Vampire are struggling to make it through over this ridge that passes on the west side of San Martin, because Stalwart is holding a really strong position for themselves. Best thing that Vampire could possibly do is try and take out some of the squad members of Box, but back at that last game, they're feeling confident, already taking down Schweppes.
Oh, Tiamba, 2 knocks sent their way. Reject Tokyo trying to eliminate them from this shack. More preoccupied with getting the flushes, in fact, actually, for Reiji. Doesn't maybe know exactly where the opponents are standing, but he breaks out and tries to make something happen against Reject Tokyo, but it's not going to go through. 2 players from Reject Tokyo knocked in the meantime, but they managed to take control of the shack and have a little bit of respite now. The Gladiators closest to go for this push should they want to, but they're just a little bit too split to make it happen fast enough.
Yeah, Matic's already up. If you could open this up with a big nade and absolutely explode onto this engagement, maybe the chance that they can take care of this north side push. And I think getting rid of Reject just after Tiamba's fallen, that'll be a very nice position for Gladiators to start pushing towards that northern side. Alpha 7 move in, but easy. Already finding 1.
1 for 1 on the trade as the rest of Alpha 7 move through. Twisted Minds far too split to be able to hold that one out on the western side. Rokus, the only player close enough really to have an impact on the fight, and doesn't get there in time or wasn't in the right position. Either way, they back off with 1 player down. Alpha 7 have swept down that western side. And the shift again goes hard northwest. This fielded area that it encircles, Blank, is so open. It can house about 2 teams in the hay field, in the hay barns. 2 or 3 maybe if they're lucky, but then they are sitting ducks for everybody to shoot at.
Yeah, you kind of have to wait for it to confirm itself up towards that northwest side before you really take advantage of that, which is why you'll see so many teams rocking out on the edges of that ridge and on towards the mountain on that northeast side. We've got DRS, we've got Alter Ego. 628 in a position to do it. Twisted Minds to an extent. They did just lose a player. Alpha 7 right now in a really strong spot to actually translate this game into a win. They don't have anyone at their backs. They can just play this one safe, play it calm, keep control over Twisted Minds and Falcons down towards their south. And if this does move in towards that field, they have an instant position to shoot towards one of these middle arenas.
Stalwart staying in the conversation on the overall standing. 6th place, 29 points. Nothing stand out from them just yet, but certainly still there. Box, however, kind of the flip side. We saw that in the last Erangel, earning 23 points, 13 elimination game. Now they've taken down top from Stalwart. Action, the other side of his coin, trying to keep a little bit of suppression on the position, and the res can come through from Stalwart.
Dammy moves off the top side, very low. Most likely will fall there, and he does. Ragey have to pick up that kill. Gets the elimination on board. Really, really well done. UMP just blasts the vehicle. Gets rid of that. Gladiator is still down towards that south side. Infinity IQ passing through on the north edge, just over the top of Geeky.
This southeast side needs to conclude fairly soon. With the pressure that's felt outwards from that field position, it really condenses that southeast side and makes it so much harder for these teams. This east edge as well. Box trying to push in behind Stalwart. Just trying to keep this one out. Action, ooh, going very, very low and finally knocked out by Duck. A force to be reckoned with on that previous Erangel, but Tony K sits his teammate down from Vampire to suppress the ridgeline. Fireflux, however, are chiming in, and both teams have third parties to worry about, seemingly. It's not fantastic, but the spray is good, and Gosu under a lot of pressure here. Reload comes through, and the UMP finally finds the mark. Took a little bit too long for their liking. Duck launches a nade, doesn't quite get the knock in response, and the flush hasn't come through just yet. Stalwart getting the worst end of this deal. One player down from Box, and there's only one still active. Icy on the ridgeline spotted. Really hot stuff from Duck again. Playing strong for Box Gaming. Now with the blue at his back, needs to put pressure on. Spray to the legs, 15 bullets in the mag. DBS is there as the secondary, needs to close the distance before swapping. Gets it out now and has got that advantage in this close range trade, but the blue zone's tickling. It's doing more than that. And it is Vampire to chime in as well with the points. Stalwart on the east side, stay alive.
Desert the player to watch over on Stalwart. It certainly is so. Able to get his team out of a sticky situation, but their power has been drained like the color out of Top's hair. A little unfortunate. Alter Ego do move in with 2 to scout out the position from 628. In the meantime, Kitsune taking shots over towards Geeky, but another team chiming in that we talked about earlier. It's Infinity IQ.
Meku to try and keep his IGL safe. Kitsune crawling back behind the headland. The blue zone, 20 seconds to move. Infinity IQ eliminated in the meantime, and Kitsune can get rest here. No threat from that southwest side. A lot of cover found. Now, can the rest of Gladiators move in? Because there is not a lot of cover forwards. There's not a lot of positions that aren't already occupied in their path.
Yeah, I think for Gladiators, really might genuinely have to take a gamble. I think at this point in time, you just send it into the fields. It's going to be very difficult in this position. You already know there's going to be a whole clump of teams waiting on the edge side before they have to confirm on the field finish. Right now, it's looking like it could even head over towards 628's compound, which is incredibly good. It has a building in there where you can lie flat on the rooftop, have some great angles, and people just can't see you up on that position if they're not playing the high ground, which is why you haven't seen 628 employ that position yet, because still some of this high ground on the ridge is available. But as we push into that third end game, that's when it's going to become very influential. Rules takes down Stone from Vampire. The fact that they've made it this far is a testament to the skill of this team alone. I think Stone and Tony K are probably the 2 last players I would want on Vampire, to be honest.
Final player as well for Alter Ego, Octa on the north flank near DRS. As Alpha 7 clear up Twisted Minds on the southwest side. 1 player for both of the top 2 teams, and Fireflux do have to push in a little bit further. There is a chance for them to come out swinging from that southeast side. They've got the Gladiators to contend with. Ahead of them, the remnants of D+ Kia. Two of their players still alive. Oh, this is nasty from Satan. Hiding in the building with the Groza as well. Swaps out to the M4. Just gets both of them. Handles business.
Yeah, it was a really nice play. In the meantime,
Oh.
Fireflux have to send out, and they go straight down towards D+ Kia's position. A real nice pickup. One player is down already, and I think Gladiators are looking to capitalize off the back of this one. They've just been waiting for their moment.
The third parties have been strong with this team for the last game and this game as well. They'll carry that pressure forwards. Gladiators now looking for the back line. You can see the nades just rolling out, desperately trying to keep Ketch and Lutz safe. Nades still, though, sending in a Tixi even closer. Matic launching forwards. Tixi given that platform to springboard through. 3 players from Fireflux are down, and Tony K chiming into the fight. They'll hear those Mini 14 ring across the hills and get to cover where they can. Tixi goes in for the backup as well, and Fireflux with 1 player still alive. Not going to be too much of a threat on their flank. The crawl back from Solke slowed down, in fact, dispatched by Reiji.
Such a funny position that Tony K's playing, because you see so many teams actually head up there and get a lot of success from this position, especially when the circle's a little bit further towards that northeast side. What he can do is just pick up eliminations from this spot. He's fully aware that he's not going to get a very high placing finish here, but what he can do is steal away some of those points. Killer also in a similar situation, but he's got way more players on side. Matic takes a tumble.
Kitsune is in position to try and go for this res. The ridgeline is pretty solid for cover from this high ground, even with the elevation that DRS are operating with. DRS moving into a 2-2 split. Gladiators know how to play this position as well that DRS are in. They are aware of the threat points. They know where has cover from it, because this is their normal drop spot. Moving down from La Cobreria into this area is some of their bread and butter rotation play.
Still taking shots here. A lot of bullets for this Mini 14. Pulls out the scarf. Oh my goodness me!
Pulls him out, wrestles him to the floor, and Giante's not getting away with that one. Out in the open though, he's got pretty happy knees there, being able to wibble and wobble his way around to stay alive a little bit longer. He's had enough. Tony K though expending a lot of ammunition, and in fact his life, to get that flush.
Yeah, frustrated, slamming the desk there. And it's fair play. I think right now for Gladiators, realistically, they just need to wait for these players to come off the high ground, and then they can start thinking about assaulting this position that 628's holding. They just want to get rid of these angles before they move in. A lot of teams down towards that south side, though, and Meku, on his approach, gets exploded in the vehicle. Luckily, it's just a knock. It is resable.
And they have the cover to do so. Reject Tokyo can't swing onto this position with Falcons in the way, with Alpha 7 just over that ridgeline as well. The main fight for me, as you talked about just now, Blank, is Gladiators into 628's position.
Yeah, realistically, it's the winning play for Gladiators. Unfortunately, this spot is quite difficult to assault, especially at this late in the game. I think their main boon is the fact that 628 only have 3 players. So moving on to that spot, it's not as covered as it could be. But again, those angles you gain from this building, which is such a prolific compound here on Miramar, is really, really big. And moving across this road with the sightlines coming down from the teams on that southwest, like Team Falcons, Reject Tokyo, as well as Alpha 7, that's what makes it tough.
Reject Tokyo healing up, getting ready to make their move. Reiji, unfortunately, takes a lick of damage there. That might slow his roll just a little bit, but they don't really have too much time to worry about that. 5 eliminations so far. Sorry, 8 eliminations for Reject Tokyo. Miscounted there on this game already. So they've been successful no matter what. With 6 teams remaining, they'll want to ladder up a little bit further.
I mean, getting the hydraulic press between Team Falcons and Alpha 7 is never an ideal situation, though. And the best they can hope for is for both these teams to take shots towards one another, just scare them off from this position. And now it's confirmed. That compound is a winning play. 628 have been so happy with the move that they made up towards this position from San Martin. Alpha 7, though, Carrillo steps into the fire, just a little too close.
Gets burnt, forced back. Reject Tokyo taken so low, but they can just get these heals up. Falcon may be looking to actually move further out and in for a third party. Alpha 7 with Carrillo down, maybe looking to move forwards and get this res, but the nades from Falcon are trying to get a third party onto both of these teams. Pretty prime real estate for them, but the damage hasn't really been done either way to facilitate that for Falcons.
DRS in the meantime move up towards that compound in the center. Reject take a knock towards Sarah. Alpha 7 look fairly healthy. Carrillo got just a little bit too close, right? And I mean, the hair gel, it is quite flammable.
Ooh. Reiji taken low, but his teammate not so lucky. 2 players now for Reject Tokyo. Delta also, DRS, sorry, from the northern side for DRS, trying to move in. And 628 rebuffing them as Reject Tokyo getting cleaned up on the southwest side, unfortunately. Their run will be drawn short, but they did get a whole helping of points there. Gladiators, they're swinging out wide. They're not going into the compound blank. We thought that was the winning play, but they move out and go for a third party. It is a refreshed Gladiators playbook, and they are playing it to a T.
I mean, you would have thought they'd go for the third party between DRS and 628 whilst their attention was compromised, but they think that this position and the side swipe is way more important. Nade actually a little bit closer on the smoke goes down. And Alpha 7 sent away. Matic out into the blue will swing back towards a position they know is clear. Now it's just one team. I think they're going to rock back up towards their original spot on that eastern side. Ooh, really smart stuff. 628 move out. This was much needed from them. The respite that they got from hearing that third party, they just wanted to clear up the remaining players. The north side of their compound now just kill it, nowhere near to assault them.
This position for Matic and Tixi is dangerous. There's not really too much cover. You can see they are just going to go down the lowland to regroup with the rest of the team. For Gladiators, they know the push they have to make. They know what they must do, but do they have the strength to do it?
They've played a very similar circle before over in Europe. Weren't able to make their way through. They actually assaulted this from the north side because they usually drop in that Cobraria, but to come all the way from the south of Los Leones to make it here is pretty impressive. They're clearing out the longhouse at the moment to move up towards that spot. In the meantime, the players are also holding down Alpha 7, who are being pushed in by the blue. So information being gathered over towards 628, who have all repositioned over towards that south side. They're above these players, the Gladiators, provide a bit of a better defense. In come the nades, though.
They know they need to clear the close angle because they need to cross this open ground fast. With Alpha 7 on the side swipe, you saw the open angles that Carrillo had. You cannot waste any time out in the open worrying about 628 players. Push them back off these windows, get into the building, and try and take that fight linearly. It just doesn't work if Alpha 7 are third-partying you and spraying you down on the side. They force you into a losing fight.
That was a gorgeous nade coming through from 628. I think the good thing for Gladiators at the moment is that while all this is happening, Alpha 7 continues to be pushed in. More utility used. They have to pour everything into this push. Absolutely critical that they get at least one player in. All the smokes are through and they go for the crash with the DPS. No one's down as of yet. Matic
leaps up to avoid the licking flames at the heels, but Tixi's down in the meantime, flushed as well. And Yang now pops another molly out the side. Groza in hand, and it's just the one player for the Gladiators alive. The crash has gone catastrophically wrong for them. Matic tries to drop, but it will not be enough. All three of 628 survive, and now Alpha 7 can start to march forwards, but Mafioso down. The Cenetex are going for the res. They have to delay somewhat, but they can push in now. But Killer's still here for DRS, the MVP of the squad. A huge elimination count from the All-Star stage blank, and he's still got more in the tank.
This guy is mega at the end of the day. Still taking shots, still sending nades over the top. And that first one was very, very long. Luckily, they should just have enough time to pick up Revo before the circle starts to enclose. But you got to give props to Yang 1. The fact that he was fighting versus Alpha 7 and the rest of the team from Gladiators were moving in, that is an incredible move from him. They'll get a full resupply from the Gladiators side. Killer getting shot out from underneath the vehicle itself. Sunan taking those shots. But Carrillo picks up easy from that side. Oh. This is not good.
Alpha 7 able to get an opening knock, but Yang 1
again
on such a huge side swipe. Slows Revo down. Now turning attention to the backline, but there's a teammate already pushing forward. Cenetexa drawn short out in the open. Has to just go completely raw into this fight.
Gets the cross.
Oh, Yang 1 perfect on the timing. and 2 players fall to the scope. Carrillo now under pressure, and Yang1 on a mission to try and take down Alpha 7, single-handed, finally falls, but the health bars are blinking, and now can 628 pull it back together? They got the res. Sunan playing around this door frame. They reposition, and they have got the center, breaks out wide, and Sunan's forwards. DBS in hand, but it's cut down, and Revo turns the tables again. Now on the back lines, they're looking for one more, but it's denied yet again. 3 eliminations found. And they want the res. They slow down the fight. Carrillo has the off angle. Groza to try and stop it. He knows he's there. Burns him out of position. Lights his feet on fire, and he has to tear to the back of the warehouse. Vehicles as cover, and Carrillo desperately trying to keep his team alive, allow them to get the res. They have been able to get it on board. Mafioso and Revo now very healthy. 1 player stands for them, and Revo swings in through the door, out into the blue, and Alpha 7 march their way to victory.
That is a disgustingly difficult win coming through from Alpha 7. Assisted by Gladiators, who came in just when they needed them to clean up with Team Falcons. But Alpha 7, that push over the ground is really, really hard, John.
What a final march from Alpha 7. Yang1, what a valiant effort as well. This is why we talk about these teams from the region, from the PEL. They just have got that X factor sometimes, but unfortunately it was not enough to stand up to the Brazilian might of Alpha 7.
Not at all, dude. It is tough to go against Alpha 7, but Yang1 made it look pretty easy in that situation. The fact they played with 3 for so long, it is a marvelous effort from 628.
They lost that high ground a little bit earlier on. I think the player had to drop down and just got knocked to the full damage, and playing that compound perfectly. I mean, what more can you really ask for from this team? Unfortunate that the Gladiators were held out by that Alpha 7 off angle for their bid for the top of the tables, but not really a lot you can do about that as well. They know the ground better than pretty much probably most other teams in this lobby, right? They play this area a lot, very, very frequently. They should know exactly what opportunities they would be given.
Stomp's very curious for the Death's thoughts on, why the Gladiators go for the Team Falcon push versus 3 teams instead of going for 628. And I guess we'll find out as we head back over to the